Okay, so today we're going to be going over the third way that we can ask to find trig ratios um, given a different set of information. So again, we're dealing with our six trig functions: sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. So just like the last couple days, I'm asking you to find the value of cosine theta. So that's what we're looking for. So right off the bat, I'm looking for cosine theta, and the cosine theta's trig ratio is x over r. So I need to find the x part of my triangle and the r part of my triangle. Now before, I've given you either a point, a coordinate that will tell me which quadrant I'm in, or I straight said, hey, it's in quadrant whatever. But this one, I didn't tell you any of those things. So I did tell you sine though, okay? So I gave you sine. So sine theta is the ratio y over r. And I said sine theta is 7 over 25. So I know my y value is 7 and r is 25. Okay. Now, given that my trig ratio sine is positive, that gives me two possible places my triangle are. My triangle is either in the first quadrant or it's in the second quadrant. Okay, because that's where sine is positive, because sine works with the y value. So y values are positive in first quadrant and second quadrant. But which quadrant is it? That I don't know. Well, that's why that second piece of information is there. It says tangent theta is greater than, or sorry, less than 0. Well, less than 0, numbers that are less than 0 are negative numbers. So what that's telling me is that tangent is negative. Well, where is tangent negative? Well, I gave you guys an acronym. All students take calculus. And that basically tells us which trig functions are positive in which quadrants. So in the first quadrant, all of them are positive. In the second quadrant, only sine is positive. Here, tangent is positive. Here, cosine is positive. Okay? So if tangent's positive in first and third, that means that it is negative in the second and the fourth. So which quadrant is both sine positive and tangent negative? And that's the second quadrant. So I know my triangle is here, with my y value being 7 and my r value being 25. Now I need to find x. Now you could do Pythagorean theorem, or this is a Pythagorean triple, the 7, 24, 25 triangle. So I know that this side is 24. But since I'm in the second quadrant here, that means this x value in the second quadrant is negative. Okay, so you got to add that to it. So that means my cosine then, the x value is negative 24 and my r is 25. So my trig ratio is negative 24 over 25. And going back to what we said over here, remember, all of them are positive in the first, only sine is positive in the second. So when I found cosine in the second quadrant, I knew it was supposed to be negative. So that double checks my work. Okay? So again, it's just like what we've been doing the last couple of days. The only difference is that you got a little bit more work at the beginning to figure out which quadrant we're in. Okay? So let's do another one. So find the value of cotangent theta if tangent theta is negative 15 over 8 and secant theta is greater than 0. So let's start with cotangent theta. Cotangent theta is the ratio x over y. Okay? So that's what we're looking for. Now, what did they tell us? Well, they told us tangent theta is negative 15 over 8. And tangent theta is y over x. So that means my y is 15 and my x is 8. Now, I don't know which one's negative because I don't know which quadrant I'm in. Okay? Now, tangent's negative, and again, just like the last problem, where is tangent negative? Well, that's in the first and the fourth quadrant. So I'm putting these check marks there so that I know that's where tangent's negative. That's where tangent is negative. Now, they said that secant is greater than 0. Greater than 0 means positive. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So cosine is positive. Where is cosine positive? Well, cosine's positive where my x's are positive, and that's in the first and the fourth quadrant. Okay, so where is it both tangent negative and cosine positive? Fourth quadrant, which means my triangle is in the fourth quadrant here, which means my x value here is 8 and my y value is 15, and that's going to tell me which one of these two is negative. Since I'm in the fourth quadrant, my y value is then negative. Okay? So we need both pieces of information to figure out where this triangle is so that we can figure out which one of these two was negative. So that means my answer over here, cotangent is x over y, which means x is 8 and y is negative 15. And that is my answer. Now, the other thing that you could have done specifically is that going back here at the beginning, we're looking for cotangent, right? And they gave us tangent. If you had remembered at the beginning that cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, then you wouldn't have had to do any of this work. You could have gone straight over here and taken just the reciprocal of it. Okay? And that's again why it's so important to know your trig functions and their relationship to each other. Because basically we wouldn't have had to do any of this if we had just remembered at the beginning that cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. Okay? So that's why it's super important for you guys to remember these trig ratios.